Welcome back to PARTUMITER, where today we're going to be switching it up a little and taking a sweet step. Granted, it's a safe sweet step. We'll be making possibly the best apple crumble I've had to date, and I'm not just saying that because it's my wife's recipe or anything, it genuinely is. Now, we're going to start by skinning these gigantic Bramley apples, chopping them in half, and then cutting the cores out and dicing them into irregular cubes, just to make for some interesting textures and tastes later on. So you want about 1 kilogram of apples cubed. Stick them in a bowl and squeeze over the juice of 1 lemon just to keep them from oxidizing and to boost the tartness of the dish overall. Now moving on to the star of the show, start the crumble by weighing out about 200 grams of plain flour and then go in with about 100 grams of brown sugar. Spike this mix with a bit of sweet cinnamon, about 1 teaspoon, and then about half a teaspoon of nutmeg and a quarter teaspoon of mixed spice, so roughly in that ratio. Mix it all together before forgetting to add a small pinch of salt just to help boost those wonderful notes in the crumble. Making sure everything is evenly combined, cut yourself about 100 grams worth of salted butter, and then we're going to dice that up. Try to keep it as cool as possible, just for ease of manipulation. I like to dust it down with a bit of the flour mix so then the butter doesn't want to stick to itself again, and then just throw the cubes of butter into the flour mixture. Rub the butter into the flour and try to break it down as much as you can, then just whack it into a food processor until you're left with something that resembles damp sand. Then grab yourself a handful of almonds, try roasting them first if you want to give it some extra lift, and chop them down. I'm keeping mine slightly chunkier because I love the textural contrasts it brings. Mix it all together and try some. If you need to boost the spices, top them up to taste. I'm also adding a little more salt and sugar for a bit more of that bite. Then grab yourself an oven safe dish, preferably square because I've left mine at someone's house and I can't be bothered to drive out to get it. Fill your dish up with your apples and then dust them down with a couple of handfuls of that crumble just to make sure the apples are lightly coated. Again, you'll see a pattern forming. We're mirroring these spices intelligently throughout all the layers, and then toss the apples one last time and then smother everything in your crumble. Now the worst thing you can do to this slice of bliss is pat it down. So loosely throw the crumble over, keeping as much air in as possible. We want to avoid a thick, dense consistency after it's out of the oven. Shake it down and level it off, and then hit it with a final sugar bay for the culture and throw it in the oven for about 40 minutes at 180 degrees. Now this is the point where you switch off and buy yourself a carton of ambrosia. Or if you're actually into cooking, start your custard by measuring out equal parts double cream and whole milk. Don't go single on either one of these things. It's custard. If you're watching your weight, you shouldn't be eating custard. So go the whole hog. Vanilla paste would be better, but I'm just going to go all natural and use a vanilla pod. So split in half and scrape out the seeds, and we're going to throw the skins into the cream as well. Put it on a low to medium heat and let it gently infuse away for about 5 minutes. Now, while that's going on, crack yourself some egg yolks. I'm using these 5 beautiful egg yolks for about 600 ml of cream and milk. And make sure you remove that little nerve on the yolk as well, whatever that's called. Then go in with about 4 tablespoons of caster sugar, and we're going to cream those yolks until they become glossy and creamy. Now hopefully by this point your milk fusion is smelling sweet and fragrant. We're going to start by tempering the yolks so they don't get shocked and you don't end up with a glorified scrambled egg. So keeping the yolks moving, slowly ladle in about a quarter of the hot liquid, and this will slowly bring up the temperature of the yolks, and then transfer the now warm yolks into the rest of the milk. Keep the mixture moving on a low and steady heat until you feel it thicken up. If you prefer it a bit thicker, go in with a bit of corn flour, but otherwise just thick enough to coat the back of the wooden spoon so it doesn't run off. 40 painstaking minutes later, you'll end up with a crumble like this and a house that could lure Elmer Fudd to your doorstep. So pour a generous amount of hot custard over it in slow motion and blow someone's mind. Thanks for watching. Please share this video around, subscribe and like it down below. If you like what you see, please consider visiting my Patreon page. The link is down below. Happy cooking.